It happened at my granddaughter's graduation party. On that day, my daughter, Emily, and I were busy preparing for the party. In the living room, my husband, Steve, our granddaughter, Melissa, and my daughter-in-law, Jennifer, were relaxing. "Oh, it seems lively here." From the faint conversation between Melissa and Jennifer in the living room, I realized that she made a cake for us. Even though Jennifer was young, she was very thoughtful and kind to her niece, Melissa, whom she met only occasionally. For this graduation party, she even offered to cook herself. I was really happy about Jennifer's kindness. The next moment, however,
What?
my husband, without a word, grabbed the plate with the homemade cake and threw it into the kitchen trash can. Jennifer was so surprised that she froze on the spot. I was cooking in the kitchen when I was shocked by my husband's strange behavior and involuntarily raised my voice. "Honey, isn't that Jennifer's cooking? What are you doing?" I thought all three of them were getting along well, waiting together, but what's going on with this situation? Confused, I was then approached by Melissa with tears in her eyes. It seems Melissa was also shocked by the sudden disposal of the cake. Poor thing. Just as I thought to say something to Melissa, it happened.
Grandpa, thank you.
Melissa gently hugged my husband and began to sob quietly. I am Karen Murphy, 60 years old. I live quietly with my husband Steve, 3 years older than me, and I work part-time at the local supermarket. We have 2 children. The first is our daughter Emily, who will soon be 37 years old. Emily married her college sweetheart and now lives in the neighboring town. The second is our son, James, who is 35 years old. James married Jennifer, whom he met at work about a year and a half ago. They now live in a new apartment close to our house. James is serious and kind-hearted, but a workaholic. So, even when he came back to our house once in a while, all he said was about work. Even when he was drunk, he didn't get any romance stories. Therefore, my husband and I thought he might remain single forever. However, 2 years ago, when he came home as usual, Jennifer was with him. And without any preamble, he introduced her as his fiancée, Jennifer. We were completely taken by surprise, as we had not been informed at all. Although James had always been inattentive to matters other than work, this surprise visit was truly unexpected, and later, he got a gentle scolding from my husband. However, since then, he has started to communicate and consult with us in advance. Thanks to that, his wedding and moving went smoothly. His wife, Jennifer, was in her early 20s, more than 10 years younger than James. She worked as a receptionist at a company, spoke politely, and had a kind demeanor. Moreover, she was very thoughtful and always took the initiative to help with household chores when she came to our house with James. She is such a considerate and well-put-together person. My son is lucky to have married such a wonderful woman. James might not be attentive to anything other than work, but we thought he could be happy with Jennifer, who chose to be with him. However, a few months later, Jennifer's behavior began to change dramatically. It started when James was scheduled to go on a week-long business trip. Normally, his department had frequent day trips or overnight business trips, but this time it was unusually a long one. 3 nights before the trip.
Hello, Mom. It's James. Sorry to spring this on you, but can you look after Jennifer next week?
What's happened all of a sudden? Is something wrong?
I have to go on a business trip for a week starting next week, and Jennifer hasn't been feeling well lately. So, can you call her or check on her sometimes?
Well, that is concerning. I'll talk to Jennifer directly and see if there's anything specific she needs help with.
Thanks, that's a big help. Let me know if anything comes up.
The next day, I sent a message to Jennifer with my unfamiliar fingers. How are you feeling? If there's anything I can help with, please don't hesitate to ask. Okay, sent. It took me over 10 minutes just to send such a short message, making me acutely aware of my declining mental agility. However, I received a reply from Jennifer within a minute. Oh, that was quick. Young people really are different. The message said that she was taking over the work of an employee who had retired, which made her incredibly busy. And although Jennifer wasn't originally good at housework, she had been managing with James's help. However, with James away for a week, she wrote that she was feeling anxious. She wanted to ask if I could help with the laundry and dishes. When I first heard from James that Jennifer wasn't feeling well, I honestly thought she might be pregnant, and I was quite excited. But learning that wasn't the case left me a bit disappointed. Still, my daughter-in-law was clearly struggling. I spent another 10 minutes typing a response to let her know to ask if there was anything else I could do. Looking back, this might have been the start of it all. After this, Jennifer began to find reasons to ask me to do household chores, and even started requesting specific dishes for dinner. The frequency of these requests increased over time, and when James was away on business trips, she would stay at our house, acting almost like a guest, and never once offered to pay for the groceries for the meals she requested. Eventually, my husband and I started to feel that her lack of restraint was too much. Still, we continued to comply with Jennifer's requests, perhaps because she was a young bride and always excessively grateful for the help with housework and meals, making it hard for us to refuse her. Doing household chores and cooking can be tough when you're tired from work. And besides, she always takes photos of the food with her smartphone, which makes me think my presentation has improved. I guess I have Jennifer to thank for that. This is how I justified it to myself. Although Jennifer wasn't pregnant, we had our granddaughter Melissa, born to our daughter Emily and her husband. Being our first grandchild, Melissa was exceptionally kind and adorable. Of course, my husband was always so doting that Melissa is the apple of his eye.
No, Grandpa, Melissa is already in elementary school. You can't do that, or you'll hurt your eyes. But I love you, Grandpa and Grandma.
Melissa would say, endearingly indulging her grandpa's jokes. Perhaps sensing our feelings, Emily made a point of bringing Melissa to our house almost every weekend when they had no plans. My husband and I always looked forward to seeing Melissa. However, About 8 months ago, their weekend visits started to decrease significantly. At first, I thought it was just a matter of timing, but the positive responses never came. Is this separation from parents? No, because she's a grandchild. Maybe it's separation from grandparents. Maybe Melissa is just at a challenging age now. I felt an indescribable loneliness, but I accepted it as something inevitable. After all, it's not like we can't meet. We're not disliked, so that's fine. Truth be told, Melissa's behavior when she visited our home hadn't changed at all. In fact, she had become even more affectionate and proactive in helping with household chores. So, the decrease in her visits probably meant she was just going through a difficult age. Thus, our only joys became the once-a-month visits and phone calls with her. Over the phone, Melissa's voice was always cheerful, and she happily shared stories from school. But at the end of each call, when I'd say she could visit any time, she would always hedge her words. Each time, I felt a deeper sadness and loneliness than I had attributed to her just being at a difficult age. In June, a day was set for Melissa to visit our home. I took this opportunity to share with my daughter Emily a plan my husband and I had discussed. We were thinking of having Melissa's graduation party here. What do you think?
Wow, thank you. Melissa would be thrilled.
That's great. Shall we discuss the menu for the day? Should we go with the usual menu? And can we invite James and Jennifer, too?
James as well. Well, yes, celebrating together would make Melissa happier. Please go ahead, and the usual menu will be fine.
The party details were smoothly arranged, leaving only the confirmation of James and Jennifer's attendance. 2 days later, while having dinner with James and his wife at our house, I mentioned the graduation party to them.
Melissa has reached that age already, huh? But I'll be on the final day of a business trip, so I can't make it. How about Jennifer?
I'll definitely be there. Oh, can I also cook something? I want to show off my cooking skills for my cute niece.
That's wonderful. Melissa will surely be delighted. Thank you, Jennifer. At that time, Jennifer had been eating dinner at our house almost daily. I was deeply touched when she offered to cook for Melissa's sake, and I happily agreed to her proposal. Little did I know that it would lead to such an incident. I couldn't have imagined it at that time. So, the day of the party arrived. Melissa's favorite pizza and, at Jennifer's request, pasta and chicken were on the table. With more people to feed than usual, Emily and I were swamped with preparations and cooking. Seeing us busy, Melissa came over to the kitchen and offered her help.
Can I help with something?
However, I declined Melissa's offer to help, saying that she was the guest of honor today. Melissa returned to her seat with a shy smile, but her face seemed slightly uneasy. At that moment, I was too preoccupied to delve into the reason for her expression. Melissa shouldn't have to worry about anything more today. I need to finish up quickly. I was focused solely on getting the preparations done as quickly as possible. Back in the living room, Melissa seemed restless and uneasy. My husband, Steve, thought that maybe calling it a party had made her nervous. In the midst of the hectic atmosphere, Jennifer alone was relaxing on the sofa, looking at her smartphone. But when Melissa returned from the kitchen and took her seat, Jennifer said to her,
Melissa, congratulations on your graduation. This is a celebration cake for me.
Despite Emily and I still preparing the meal, Jennifer placed the box in front of Melissa.
A celebration calls for a cake, right? I worked hard on it just for you, so please eat it all.
As she opened the box, she urged Melissa to eat it right away.
Well, but shouldn't we wait until everyone is together?
Melissa replied in a shaky voice, visibly unsettled. However, Jennifer insisted, handing her a fork somewhat forcefully.
The truth is, I'm not good at cooking, so I only made enough cake for you, Melissa. I'd be embarrassed if everyone saw it, so please eat it now. Please.
Jennifer pleaded with a smile.
Well, maybe just a little then.
Just as Melissa was about to take a bite with her fork.
Come on, you won't get the real taste from just the itch.
Jennifer said cheerfully, and then cut a piece from the middle of the cake, which was richer with cream.
The middle part is creamier and tastier. Here, try this.
As Jennifer pulled the plate closer to Melissa, my husband suddenly grabbed the plate with the cake and, without a word, threw it into the kitchen trash can.
What?
Jennifer was so surprised that she froze on the spot. I was cooking in the kitchen when I was shocked by my husband's strange behavior and involuntarily raised my voice. Honey, isn't that Jennifer's cooking? What are you doing? From the living room, I could barely hear the conversation and only knew that Jennifer was pushing her homemade cake on Melissa. I thought they were getting along well, but what is happening here? Amid my confusion, Melissa came to me with tears in her eyes. The cake was suddenly thrown away, and Melissa must be shocked too, poor thing. I was about to speak to her when she said,
Grandpa, thank you.
Holding back her tears, Melissa hugged my husband, and then started to cry softly in his arms. I was even more confused and could only silently watch them. Then, noticing my bewildered state, my husband muttered,
It's the nuts?
What did you say? Surprised by his unexpected words, I asked him to repeat. The idea seemed impossible to me, because I couldn't get rid of such a thought. But my husband repeated the same thing.
The cake had nuts in it.
At the word nuts, both I and Emily, who had been cooking with me, were shocked and turned pale. Could it be a mistake, because Melissa is...
No, there's no mistake. I checked the actual cake, and I clearly heard her say nuts.
Hearing my husband's words, I felt all the blood drain from my body, nearly fainting. Emily, on the other hand, rushed to Melissa and meticulously checked her face and palms.
Melissa, you didn't eat it, did you?
She asked desperately.
I didn't eat it. Grandpa threw it away.
Melissa said between sobs, reassuring Emily. Relieved, Emily exhaled deeply and gently embraced Melissa. The reason we were so frantic is that Melissa has a severe nut allergy. Melissa's nut allergy was discovered when she was just 9 months old. We were having a meal at our house that day. Melissa loved bread at the time, but we only had bread with nuts. After discussing it with Emily, we decided to let Melissa try a small bite as part of her weaning food. However, this decision would be something Emily and I regretted for a long time. Seconds after eating a bite of the nut-containing bread, Melissa's mouth area quickly turned red. Her breathing became rapid, as if she had a fever, and she became limp. Naturally, the meal was immediately stopped, and Emily and her husband rushed to the emergency department. That was when we first learned of Melissa's severe nut allergy. Even now, recalling that moment makes my hands shake with fear. Since then, we made sure that no food containing nuts was kept in our house. Of course, Jennifer should have been informed about Melissa's nut allergy through James. Despite this, the idea of her serving a cake topped with nuts was beyond my imagination. Especially when Emily, Melissa's mother, was not watching. Just the thought of it sends chills down my spine. Cold stares from everyone were instantly directed at Jennifer.
What have I done? I'm so sorry. It wasn't intentional. I didn't know about the allergy. I'm truly sorry.
Jennifer sobbed and apologized.
You didn't know. Didn't James tell you?
It seemed impossible that James would forget to mention Melissa's allergy. Because at that time James was experiencing the same fear with us. Just as everyone's suspicion towards Jennifer intensified. Could that be a delivery at the door? The tense atmosphere was pierced by the sound of the doorbell.
I'll get it.
My husband said, quickly heading towards the entrance. From the door, I could faintly hear the voices of two men arguing. Is there some trouble? I wondered, and in the next moment,
Melissa, are you okay?
James, with a look of panic, rushed into the kitchen.
Uncle James.
Everyone was surprised by James's sudden appearance, as he had said he couldn't attend to his business trip, but Jennifer reacted differently.
James, why? You said you weren't coming today.
I rushed to finish my work so I could make it to the party. But more importantly, is it true that Melissa's food had nuts in it? What exactly happened here?
James was clearly bewildered by the unusual situation at the party. To calm him down, my husband quietly explained what had happened.
So, it seems Jennifer didn't know about Melissa's nut allergy and offered her the cake. And kind-hearted Melissa couldn't refuse and was about to take a bite, so I hastily threw the cake away.
You're saying Jennifer didn't know? Did she really say that?
Yes, she said she hadn't heard anything from you.
That's impossible. I made a point of noting it in our shared memo, emphasizing that she has a nut allergy. Jennifer couldn't have been unaware.
James then showed us the shared memo on his smartphone, which indeed mentioned the nut allergy. The cold stares of everyone turned back to Jennifer.
I always top my cakes with nuts out of habit. I might not have paid proper attention to the memo. I was so focused on cooking. It wasn't intentional.
Jennifer started to make tearful, strained excuses, sounding almost like a child. No one seemed convinced by her explanation. However, my husband, James, and I didn't blame her further. Although it wasn't a mistake that could be easily forgiven, fortunately, Melissa hadn't eaten the nuts. We felt it was enough if Jennifer would be more careful in the future. However, only Emily didn't think so.
I can tell everything now, right?
Emily said, and Melissa nodded firmly, albeit with a hint of confusion. The exchange left us puzzled. What's going to happen this time? An incomprehensible uneasiness was weighing on the air.
Jennifer, it's not just about the allergy, is it? You've been doing terrible things to Melissa behind our backs, haven't you?
What are you talking about?
You've answered Melissa's calls multiple times when you were here, haven't you? And each time you told her not to come here, or you threw away the letter she sent, right?
Stop it. That's absurd. I apologize for the nut incident, but don't make me out to be the villain. Steve, Karen, I didn't do any of that. It's the truth.
Jennifer retorted, her demeanor becoming defensive. Then she began to cry and yell at Emily, saying that she was jealous of Melissa because she was more adored than herself. But Emily remained calm. Her composure soon explained by her next action.
It's useless to flatter now. I have recorded your conversations with Melissa.
Emily played an audio clip from her smartphone. Melissa's distressed voice came through amidst faint static.
Can you put Grandpa or Grandma on the phone?
Her voice was fearful, on the verge of tears. Then Jennifer's voice, authoritative and smug, filled the room.
I've told you many times, stop calling. Like I said before, they really don't want to look after you, you know? Do you understand? So, stop calling and coming over here, all right?
The recording ended with a harsh click, leaving everyone in stunned silence. Melissa, perhaps recalling the incident, pressed her face into Emily's back, her shoulders trembling slightly. Emily embraced her tightly.
I kept quiet because Melissa didn't want to upset her grandma and grandpa, but I can't stay silent after all this.
Her glare at Jennifer was piercing as she spoke firmly. Jennifer, in contrast, was trembling, unable to form words, completely overwhelmed by the situation. In the silent tension of the room, the ticking of the clock was the only sound, distinctly audible. The long silence was finally broken by James.
First off, I'll talk with Jennifer alone. Sis, I'll definitely call you tonight, so can you leave this with me for now?
James, okay, call me, no excuses.
Yay, Melissa, sorry for the tough time. Dad and Mom, I'll contact you later. Jennifer, we're leaving.
Well, okay.
Jennifer seemed somewhat relieved at that moment. She must have thought that James had helped her. I had assumed James was protecting Jennifer. But that turned out to be a misunderstanding. Because shortly after, James divorced Jennifer. My husband and I heard the reasons for the divorce directly from James. And we were astounded by the childish and selfish nature of the revelations.
I thought Mom wanted Jennifer to come over for meals every day, and I was under the impression that Mom insisted on doing the apartment's chores and cleaning because you wanted to.
What? That's not true at all. It was Jennifer who asked for those things. I was shocked by James's statement, because none of it was true. However, the issue wasn't just that Jennifer was lying. Jennifer's true aim was. It was about satisfying the need for approval.
Jennifer always takes pictures, right?
Yes, now that you mention it, but what about it?
She's not just taking photos. She posts them on social media, bragging to a lot of people, showing off how fulfilling her life is. Here's her social media profile.
On Jennifer's social media, there were numerous posts of cute nails, brand bags, and stylish cafes. I noticed some familiar photos among them. Wait, this picture. It was a post of a dinner, claiming it was a menu she learned from her mother-in-law. However, I never taught her that recipe. In fact, Jennifer would only tell me, "Please make this next time."
Being envied by others is what matters most to Jennifer. Eventually, it led to her needing to feel superior all the time.
James explained it to me.
Jennifer became so obsessed with getting attention on social media that she pushed the annoying chores and cooking onto Mom. She wanted to appear as the perfect wife, so she made those false boasts.
James also explained her desire for approval. Still, it was a little difficult for me to understand at the age of 60. So, Jennifer did such awful things just to show off a loved and fulfilled personal life.
Yeah, something like that. It would have been better if she was just satisfied with showing off in photos. Jennifer increasingly wanted to be the sole focus of Dad and Mom's attention, but for that, Melissa was in the way.
In the way.
When Melissa comes over, there's no overnight stay or dinner for Jennifer. Even though they do anything if she asks, that's not the case when Melissa visits. Jennifer hated that.
My husband and I were appalled by James's story. It was hard to believe that for the sake of being the center of attention, she became jealous of a 12-year-old child, almost causing a serious incident.
Allergies are the same as likes and dislikes of food, aren't they? It's not just selfishness. Even your sister made such a fuss about it. Isn't that strange?
Jennifer did not attempt to understand the severity of allergies or how dangerous her actions were. Seeing Jennifer's attitude, James said his feelings for her cooled rapidly, and he disclosed everything to Emily. After hearing about it, Emily decided to report it to the police after consulting with her husband. The charge was assault. Additionally, the act of discarding the letters could be considered as obstruction of correspondence. It was also mentioned that parts of the recorded phone conversations, beyond what was heard that day, could potentially constitute threats, leading to charges of intimidation. Thus, Jennifer faced police questioning initiated by Emily and her husband's consultation, concurrently with James's divorce proposition. Initially, Jennifer refused to accept the divorce and the police inquiry. However, as time passed, rumors that she had caused the police incident began to spread at her workplace. Having always boasted about her fulfilling life, the spread of these rumors seemed to hit her hardest. After stubbornly rejecting the divorce, she quickly accepted it and became unreachable immediately after completing the police interrogation. As expected, she was also fired from her job due to unexplained absences. This experience made me realize that Jennifer I knew was just a facade. Though we might never meet again, I wished, at least as an adult, to hear her apologize to Melissa. I mentioned this quietly to my husband.
People like her don't change easily. I'm happier with the thought of her never appearing before Melissa again than any apology she could offer.
He might be right. Since that day, Melissa's visits to our home decreased again. But for entirely different reasons. Now in middle school, Melissa is busy with studies and club activities, only finding time during school holidays. Yet, she still keeps in touch through calls and letters, mitigating any feelings of loneliness. If my husband hadn't thrown away the cake on the day of the graduation party, what would have happened by now? I am sometimes seized by a chilling sensation as I contemplate this. He noticed something was off with Melissa and acted out of a desperate need to protect her. Thanks to his actions, Melissa can still go to school with a smile today. I'd like to learn from my husband and be able to protect Melissa's smile and future. I'm secretly thinking so.